Hi everyone. So yes, I'm here to talk to you about the Fantasy Premier League independent connector that I've created. But before that, let's just touch on who I am. My name's Joe Unwin. I'm also known as FlowJoe in the community. I'm a Microsoft MVP and MCT. I work at Hitachi Solutions as a solution architect and C training lead. And if you need to contact me for any reason about Flow or anything like that, contact me at flowjoe@outlook.com or visit my blog at www.flowjoe.io. Okay, so firstly, we should really touch on what is the Fantasy Premier League. So if there's anyone on this call that has no idea what I'm talking about, it is essentially a fantasy football league that you can pick a squad of players, you can buy and sell each of them each week. You get one free transfer, you get deducted points if you do more than that. You can then get points based on how your team performs, and then you get a total of weekly points, and that gets added to your total points. And then each game week, your leaderboard's updated, so whoever's doing best with the most total points will be at the top, and whoever's doing worse will be at the bottom. And then at the end of the season, the highest point team wins. It's relatively simple, but it's super popular. There's over 10 million users worldwide. And even at my own company, Hitachi, we've got over 20 people playing in our little league. Okay, so why did I create this? Well, firstly, I created it at Hitachi simply because we have this chat and everyone's talking about what's going on. But you have to go onto the website and get the information, and you're looking at that solo, right? We wanted to build camaraderie within the team, especially as we're all remote workers. So I created a custom connector and was posting all of the information about our league into the chat every Monday morning for a recurrence on Flow. And then I decided to essentially build it out, build more features, and make it into an independent connector, because that's the great thing about the independent connector initiative is that any custom connector that you create, you can then build out, submit it to GitHub, and it can be used for everyone. So let's look at the process then. Well, what we're going to be doing then is we're going to be looking at how Power Automate Independent Connector requests the information. The information is going to be requested from the Fantasy Premier League. They're going to respond with to our request with information based in JSON. Then we're going to receive that information in Power Automate, manipulate it, and then send it to teams. And then teams will receive that data and display the message to the users. So what can we actually do with this independent connector? We have multiple different actions. We have the classic league standing action. The classic league standing action essentially allows you to get all the information on your league. And this is what the majority of people use. If they use this connector, this is what I use all the time. But then you have fixtures, so you can get like upcoming fixtures, previously played fixtures. You can get like the score results from teams that have just played, etc. You have game week live data, so you can get all the information about that particular game week. You get general information such as team of the week and what people have been transferring in and out. You also have like basic manager information, such as like the manager is a user. You get to get their first name, last name, team names, the leagues that they're in. You also get the history of a manager, which allows you to get breakdowns of their like previous year's play, the transfers that they've made. It's more specific information. And then I've also added a player's detailed data action that allows you to pull data on specific individuals. So if you wanted to find more information about your favorite player and how they're doing, you could provide their ID and then you can pull that information. Okay, so let's jump straight onto Power Automate and have a look. What we are going to be doing firstly is I'm going to be building out a flow that essentially grabs the league information, passes it to Microsoft Teams, and I'll show you how relatively easy it is. But what I'll do as well, because we're limited on time, is I'll go into a more complex flow that I've created to show you how complex you can get with this type of stuff and get all of the information that you require. So let me just delete this, as this was just a template. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to type Fantasy Premier League, and I can select the independent published connector, and then I can select the classic league standings. Now, all you need to do here is provide a league ID. Now, how do we find that league ID? So if I jump over to my team, doing relatively okay, and you can see all the information about your team here, but down at the bottom, you have the classic leagues. Now, I'm not signed in, so all of this information is public. So if I go to the Hitachi All-Stars League, for example, you can see that we have all of the information about the individuals, the game week scores, and the total scores. But at the top in the URL, we have fantasy.premierleague.com/leagues/an ID. Now that ID is what you want to copy. And then if we go back to our flow and paste it in here, what that's going to do then is that's going to pull the information on our league. So let's just run a quick test on that and see what information we get back. Okay, so as you can see, super fast. Get all of the data back in JSON once it loads. Yep. Okay, so you can see we've got the name of the league, we've got when it was created, we've got all of the information if it has a cup and so on. And then we've got all of the information, as you can see on here, such as the rank, the team name, the person name, game week, the total score. We've got all of that information in here as well, plus more, so we can actually get more information than the actual website is displaying to us. Now, what this allows us to do then is this allows us to manipulate the data that we get back and set it up to make it into a nice and easy readable way before we send it to Microsoft Teams. So the next thing we're going to do is simply create a HTML table. And we're going to pass in the information. Now, if you haven't seen this before, I've got, if in settings, the Power Automate settings, I've got the experimental features on, because what this does is it gives you this nice, larger area for dynamic values and expression box. So if you're looking to get a bigger expression box, that's how you can do it. So what we can do then is I'm going to select the classic league standing results. And then in here, I'm going to open advanced options and I'm going to customize the columns because I want to get specific information. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set position as my first header. And then I need to select the actual dynamic data that I'm going to be using. So I know that the dynamic data is rank. So we've got last rank, and then we've got the classic, just the current rank, the current position. So what I'm going to then do is do previous, so we can see who's actually either gone up or gone down. So if I just write rank in here again, and do last rank, and then what I'm going to do is the name of the actual individual. So this is going to be player name. And then I'm going to do total to get the actual total score. And then I'm going to get the this week's total. Okay, so then now what we've done then is we've essentially created a table and pulled all of the information that we want to display into our teams. We want to display the position, the previous position, the current player name, the total score that they've actually got, and then the actual score that they've got this week. Because at Hitachi, for example, I have this running every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern, so that everyone can come into work and see, be really happy that they've got they've moved up on the league, or not so happy because unfortunately someone's overtaken them. So let's have a look at this then. Let's just run this and see what we get back from our HTML table. Okay, cool. So as you can see here, information is split up into a nice, easy to read table now. We know that, for example, myself, this week I'm in rank 6, last week I'm in rank 7. Mr. Tabor was rank 6 last week, but he's now moved down to rank 7 because I had a good week. I've got my total points here and the amount of points that I've got during that week. So then we need to get this into Microsoft Teams. Okay, so how do we do this then? We can simply use the Microsoft Teams action, and we can post to a chat or channel. Now, depending on how you want to set this up in your Teams, you can either have it in a channel, or like us, we have just a chat with everyone in it. You can also post to that, right? So if we select Flowbot, and then we can select the actual chat that we want to go into. This will then be able to go into our particular channel here. For some reason, my chat's not showing up. Not entirely sure why. Let me delete that and try again. Huh, interesting. For some reason, my I don't know why, but it's not my message channel isn't showing up. But anyway, what I can do is I can just jump straight over to my other flow. So now we've gone from basically creating the HTML table and posting it into Teams to building out a HTML table for our league, exactly the same, but we've now gone into fixtures. So how this works then is I want to go through the fixtures. I want to get the latest fixtures. So I want to get the latest results from our event. So we've got, for example, Nottingham Forest versus Aston Villa was the last game. I want to get the last three, for example. So what I can do then is I can call those fixtures. But what I'm doing at the beginning is I'm creating an array of team names. So why am I going through this and arranging these team names? Well, if you go on to the Wikipedia, you can just copy a list of all of these team names. And what I've done then is I've pasted this into Excel. And as you can see, we've got 1 to 20. Now, the Fantasy Premier League doesn't actually send you a team name back. They send you a team number. They must be keeping their team names on a database somewhere that they're calling that we don't actually have access to. So this is how you can get around situations like that, is that you can create an array, you add a string array of all of these teams, and obviously an array is base of 0, so Arsenal would be 0, Aston Villa would be 1, etc. So if we get 1 through for Arsenal, we need to minus 1 from that to get the team name from the array. So I can go into them fixtures. I call the fixtures and pass in the JSON. All I've done is I've run this previously, copied the result back from that and generated a sample from it. Then I'm filtering my array. Now, what I'm doing in this filter array is that I'm using the AND because I'm doing two different filters. And I'm saying that I'm using the not equals kickoff time is null because team games get moved. Sometimes they don't kick off. For whatever reason, they get cancelled. So I don't want to receive any of those. I just want to receive the games that have played. So I'm putting a not equals kickoff time of null, as well as I'm doing an equals of finished because I only want the games that have been played because this gives you every single fixture. So I only want the games that have actually been played. Then what I've got here is I'm going through and sorting the array. Now this is a new function that's been added called sort, and I'm just passing through the output of my filter array, and I'm sorting by the kickoff time. Now the ascending kickoff time goes from oldest to newest, so I need to then wrap that in a reversal. I get the newest on top, and then I'm going to essentially use the function called take and get the last three results. So I'm just passing the output, comma, 3, and then taking the 3 results that I want. And again, I'm passing the output into there and building up a table. Now this table then is built up with the home team name. So I'm going to have the home team name, their score, the score of the away team, then the away team name, and then the time that it actually took place. Now, as I mentioned previously, we've got a variable on top of FPL names. And then what I'm doing is I'm using the subtraction function and passing in the team number that they are giving me from this data, from the fixtures. And then I'm subtracting 1 from it so that we get to the base of 0 for the array, and I'm passing that in the square brackets. So then it will pull the name from our array rather than having to have a number and no one knows what the number is, right? So then we'll get a name through, we'll get a team score through, then we'll get the name of the away team, then we'll get the kickoff time, and then so this is what you should have seen in the last flow, is that we have the Fantasy Premier League group chat, and what happens then is we use the flow bot, posting group chat, Fantasy Premier League. What this is going to do then is it's going to post on behalf of the user that runs it. So it will say Flowbot on behalf of Joe Unwin, for example. Then I'm just populating the message, right? So I'm doing FPL ranks at, and I'm just using a format date time, UTC now. I'm pulling in the full day, so it would say Thursday now, for example. And then I'm just doing the date, so month, day, year. I'm putting the output of our table that we was creating previously on the previous flow with the position, previous name, total this week, etc. And then I'm doing latest outputs of the latest matches, and I'm passing that into here for that output. So let's run this then, and I'll show you what it looks like in Microsoft Teams. Okay, so these have run in parallel. That's why we've got the 2 different splits here, and our tables have been created. You can see the table here, as well as all of the filtered table here. So we've got the last 3 results. We've got Nottingham Forest versus Aston Villa, Everton versus Man United, and Arsenal versus Liverpool. This one I'm particularly happy about. Then we post to the channel. So this is what happens then, is that we now have a nice, easy to read table get posted to our Fantasy Premier League chat. We have all of the information based on the positions, the previous, the name, the total, and this week's total. And then you can see the latest results here, the time that they were played in BST. And we essentially have all of the information to it. But let's just jump back to here. Now, obviously, I'm doing this as a manual trigger. And as I mentioned previously in Hitachi, what we've got is we've got a recurrence weekly at Monday morning, 7 a.m. So you can have this flow run every week. So before you comes into your chat, you have all the information there ready for you to go and discuss if you have done well or not. And I had done relatively okay this week, so I was relatively happy, but I was super happy that Arsenal beat Liverpool. Okay, that's the end of the presentation. I'm going to now just jump over to a review slide here and just go through what we've actually seen. So what have we actually seen then? We looked at how easy it was to gather league information, create a table from that information, and send that information to a Teams chat. I'm not entirely sure why the action wasn't picking up my chat at that particular point. I'll have to have a look into that. Maybe I selected the wrong action from the excitement of doing this presentation. Then we also saw how you can get more complex. Now, I was manipulating a lot of data. I was filtering it. I was essentially cleaning the data that I wanted, and then I was taking specific information and building up a actual table, a HTML table, before sending it to Teams. So you can get really complex with the data that you have, or you can do it really easy if you just want the league information displayed directly into your Teams. I want to just highlight other connectors that I've created. I've created the Dexcom continuous glucose monitoring connector that essentially I'm type 1 diabetic, so I have a continuous glucose monitor. It monitors my blood sugar every day, every 5 minutes actually, and it sends information to a website. Now, parents can't, they may want access to what their kids are doing. It gets sent to your mobile device. What you can do is you can then pull that information via the Power Automate and the Power Platform and essentially have a look at that, right? Have a look at blood sugar levels and so on. Obviously, I'm not saying this is a specific medical thing that you should be using, but it's very interesting to get averages and so on. And then I've done a Jira extension as well that essentially builds upon what was already built on Power Automate. And lastly, if you want to see any more from me, check out www.flojo.io. I go much more in depth into how we build out that fixtures section, because I know we had to go through that relatively quickly. Okay, so I'll hand back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Very, very cool. Love how you're integrating some team chemistry using the technology and how extensible it is to also use in other areas of business. So very, very cool. Thank you. I know there's some questions and comments in the chat. I'll let you look at that in the interest of time.